This is Kilo 4 Delta, the podcast, a revolution in sound. My name is Lucas, and I'm your host. I'm a father and former police officer, and I'm a licensed private investigator. I started this because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of children being abused. I'm sick of seeing good men dying in silence, and I'm sick of families being torn apart while evil gets in the way and nobody stands up. This isn't entertainment, it's a fight back. It's a voice for the voiceless, a light in the dark corners no one wants to talk about. Because here we speak truth, raw, real, and unfiltered. We shine light on what others hide. Family court, apprehended violence orders, domestic violence, mental health, suicide, administrative delay, police accountability, evidence handling, and procedural fairness. And most importantly, the children. We talk about child abuse through neglect, manipulation, alienation, and system failure. We talk about what happens when children are used as weapons, when parents are erased, and when allegations are not properly tested. When delay becomes the outcome. When people are told to stay silent while their lives collapse around them. But this podcast isn't just about pointing fingers. It's about positive change. We're here to fix the system, not just criticize it. We're pushing for reform from every lawful angle available to us, through education, advocacy, through public awareness, community training, investigations, police action, media, through lawful accountability, and through the creation of real systems and real solutions, including the Family Court Investigative Service. We will speak to politicians, professionals, fathers, mothers, grandparents, survivors, investigators, lawyers, advocates, and people who have lived through the fire. We will search for solutions. We will ask the hard questions. And where agencies, governments, institutions, law firms, influencers, or individuals lie, manipulate, mislead, abuse power, or cause harm, we will call it out responsibly, lawfully, and with evidence. We do not threaten. We do not abuse. We do not divide for the sake of attention. We're going to educate. We're going to advocate. We're going to investigate. We're going to organise, and we are going to act. Because real change does not come from noise alone. It comes from truth, courage, strategy, evidence, and action. We do not sugarcoat. We do not spin. We tell it how it is because silence helps no one. Now, before we dive into today's episode, a quick but important disclaimer. The content of this podcast is for informational, educational, advocacy, and storytelling purposes only. It does not constitute legal, medical, mental health, financial, or professional advice. If you're involved in a legal matter, family law proceeding, criminal matter, AVO matter, child protection matter, police complaint, court action, or any other formal process, you should seek independent legal advice from a qualified professional before making decisions. The views and opinions shared by me, my guests, contributors, callers, or members of the public are their own. They do not represent any government agency, employer, court, police force, legal body, or organisation unless expressly stated. We make every effort to ensure the accuracy and fairness, but this podcast is shared in good faith for awareness, discussion, education, and reform. Some of what we're going to talk about can be confronting. We may discuss abuse, trauma, domestic violence, child abuse, parental alienation, false allegations, mental wellness, suicide, grief, police action, court proceedings, and family breakdown. If at any point you are distressed or you are thinking about harming yourself or someone else, please stop and reach out for help. In Australia, you can call Lifeline on 131114 anytime, day or night. And if there is an immediate danger, call 000. You're not alone. There is help. There is hope. Everything shared here is based on lived experience, personal opinion, public interest discussions, advocacy, and material we believe is relevant to systemic reform. Our goal is simple: to shine light, not to throw shade, to seek truth, not to destroy people for sport, and to create accountability, not chaos. Because this is for fathers erased from their children's lives, for mothers who have been silenced, for the grandparents cut off without cause, and for the children taught to hate the ones who love them the most. For the genuine victims who deserve protection, for the falsely accused who deserve truth, for the families broken by delay, and for the people who were told to wait while their lives fell apart. For the truth the system tried to bury. This is Kilo 4 Delta. Now strap in, turn it up, and let's make some noise for change. This is not just another podcast. This is not background noise. This is not entertainment dressed as outrage. This is a mission. Kilo 4 Delta was born out of pain, silence, and lived experience, and the unbearable truth that too many families are being torn apart by the very systems meant to protect them. Systems that fail to adapt, systems that fail to see, and systems that don't react until it's too late. Systems that move so slowly that by the time they finally do something, the damage has already become permanent. We have lived it. We have watched good parents vanish from their children's lives. We have seen children caught in the middle of adult conflict, legal strategy, fear, revenge, silence, and manipulation. We have seen allegations accepted before evidence is tested. We have watched protection systems used properly by genuine victims. And we have watched those same systems misused as weapons by people who know exactly what they're doing. We have seen the law move at a pace that destroys the very relationships that it claims to protect. We have seen childhood swallowed by adjournments. We have seen truth buried under paperwork. And we have seen people break under the pressure of being told to wait. Wait for a mention. Wait for a report. Wait for a hearing. Wait for a trial. Wait for someone to read the evidence. Wait for your child to grow up without you. Wait while delay becomes the outcome. We have buried friends, men who could no longer survive the weight of it. People who stopped believing anyone was coming. People who were not weak. People who were tired. People who were isolated. People who were crushed by a system that did not understand the human cost of its own delay. This podcast exists because the silence is killing people. It exists because too many have been erased by the systems that were designed to protect them. It exists because children lose time they can never get back. And time is not neutral. Delay is not neutral. Silence is not neutral. When a child loses a month with a safe parent, that matters. When a child loses a year, that changes them forever. And when a parent is cut off while allegations remain untested, that matters. When a person is accused falsely and has to spend years proving they are not the monster they were labelled as, that matters. When genuine victims are ignored because the system is drowning in bad faith claims, that matters too. And Kilo 4 Delta exists to speak into that space, to turn the whispers into a roar, to expose what others avoid, to educate people before they walk blind into systems that can change their lives forever, to support people who feel like they are fighting alone, to push for reforms that are not symbolic, not soft, not political theatre, but real, structural, evidence-based reform. Knowledge used to fix what is broken, knowledge used to understand patterns, knowledge used to challenge power, knowledge used to protect children, knowledge used to keep people alive. And that is exactly what we're doing here. We are applying that principle to one of Australia's greatest unspoken human crises: parental alienation, false allegations, weaponized apprehended violence orders, domestic violence, men's mental health and suicide, administrative delays, police accountability, evidence handling, procedural fairness, and family court delay. The lawful use of public power and the failure to act quickly when children are being harmed. Because in this space, too often there is no rapid fact-finding, no independent oversight, no urgent investigation, and no real accountability when the truth finally comes out. And that is why Kilo 4 Delta also means killed for dollars. Because too often, power, politics, process, procedure, and profit win over truth, justice, and love. This podcast is not just conversation. It is resistance, it is education, it is advocacy. It is public awareness, it is the front end of a much larger network. A network built to challenge the system in every lawful way we can. A rapid response channel, a lifeline, a platform, a campaign, a community, a public interest movement. We are here to shine the light into the places that depend on darkness, to name the failures and those who caused them, to fight for the fixes, to build the tools that people need, and to prove that when knowledge is shared, amplified, and weaponized for good, change becomes possible. Because this is Kilo 4 Delta. The truth does not sleep, and neither do we. So who am I and why am I here? Well, I'm not a politician. I'm not a judge. I'm not a journalist chasing clicks. I'm a father and I'm a son. I'm a man who has worn the uniform of a police officer and the gear of a firefighter. I'm a licensed private investigator. I'm a man who stood on the front lines of disaster, violence, death, trauma, and system failure. And now a man who has stood on the front lines of a broken legal system. Because when I was in uniform, the job sounded simple in principle. Protect the vulnerable, uphold the law, and tell the truth. But the reality was never that simple. The reality meant walking into every shade of humanity. I have seen the best of people. I have seen courage, kindness, loyalty, sacrifice, and love in places where most people would expect to find none. I have seen strangers risk themselves for people they don't even know. I have seen people show compassion in the middle of chaos. I have seen people survive things that should have destroyed them. And I have seen the worst. I have seen the cruelty. I've seen the violence. I have seen the manipulation. I have seen what people are capable of doing to the people they love. I have seen people lie with confidence. I've seen victims too terrified to speak. And I have seen people tell the truth and not be believed. I have held a murdered baby. I have sat with a man as his life drifted from his eyes, listening as he's used his last words to ask me, please tell my children I love them. I have put handcuffs on a man who murdered his own mother. I've revived a drowned child. I've delivered messages of death to family members whose lives changed forever the moment I knocked on their door. I've been abused, I've been threatened, attacked, spat at. I had a woman try to spit blood filled with hepatitis C in my face as we arrested her for domestic violence. I worked in one of the highest domestic violence regions in the country. I've had people try to stab me. I've had people try and drown me in a lake. I've walked into a home where fear lived within the walls. I've seen domestic violence committed by men. I have seen domestic violence committed by women. I have seen children used as weapons. I have seen adults destroy children emotionally while telling themselves they were protecting them. I have seen people weaponize systems designed for safety. I have seen people use allegations not as truth, but as strategy. But I've also seen real victims, real danger, real abuse, real fear, real trauma, and that matters. Because this podcast does not exist to deny abuse. It exists because I know abuse is real. I know violence is real. I know coercive control is real. And I know child abuse is real. I know domestic violence is real because I've seen it. I've dealt with it. I've stood in it. I've carried pieces of it with me. And because I know these things are real, I cannot stay silent when I see systems being manipulated in a way that hurts genuine victims, innocent parents, and children who deserve better. I've experienced domestic violence. I've been sexually abused. I grew up with an abusive and violent step-parent. I know what it's like to live with fear inside your own home. I know what it's like to carry things that no child should ever have to carry. I've been married. I've been divorced. I have 2 amazing children. I have been loved. I've been betrayed. I've been accused. I have been broken. I've been labelled things that I'm not. I've been called an abuser. I've been labelled as a child abuser. I've been arrested, I've been charged, and I've been beaten down by false allegations. I've been through the family court system, and I've sat in rooms where people talked about my children like they were paperwork. I've watched time with my children become something strangers debated, delayed, restricted, and controlled. I know what it's like to have your relationship with your children placed in the hands of people who do not know you. I know what it's like to watch time slip away while your kids grow up without you. I know what it's like to fight every single day just to be their dad. That weight is heavy. It eats at your mind, it eats at your body, it eats at your soul. The sleepless nights where you lay awake imagining the moments that you're missing. The birthdays, the school mornings, the scraped knees, the lost teeth, the conversations in the car, the jokes, the bedtime routines, the ordinary moments that are not ordinary at all when they are taken from you. The rage that you have to swallow so that no one labels you unstable. The grief you have to hide so no one calls you weak. The fear that if you speak too loudly, react too honestly, or break for even a second, the system will use your pain as proof against you. As I've already said, I've been to funerals. I have sat with friends who were planning to end their own lives. I have sat with friends who have lost someone to suicide. I myself lost my sister to suicide. I have supported men and women through moments where they do not know if they could survive another day. And I've spoken to children who have been alienated from the parent they once loved. I have seen families destroyed by not one single event, but by thousands of cuts. I've had to close my business. I've become homeless. I lost everything, but I'm still here. That is why this podcast exists. Not because I read a report, not because I watched a documentary, not because I want attention. This exists because I've lived enough darkness to know when the system is failing people. I've seen the inside, I've seen the outside. I've seen the uniforms, I've seen the courtrooms, I've seen the paperwork. I have seen the violence. I've seen the lies, I've seen the grief, and I've seen what happens with the silence. And I've seen what happens when good people are too scared, too exhausted, or too broken to keep fighting. For too many people, that weight becomes unbearable. These are not just numbers, they are names. They are mates you haven't heard from in a while. They're empty chairs at a birthday party. They're messages that stop coming. They are children growing up with questions no one wants to answer. This podcast exists because the silence is killing people. It exists because too many people have been erased. It exists because every day without action is another day that a child loses a piece of their childhood that they can never get back. Kilo 4 Delta exists so you can hear from people who have been where you are. So you can learn what to expect. So you can understand how these systems work. So you can prepare. So you can survive. And so you can fight smarter. We are here to challenge the narrative that all men are dangerous. We are here to challenge the idea that every allegation is automatically truth. And it is here we challenge the belief that a children's bond with both safe parents is optional. But most of all, we are here to remind you, you're not alone. And whether you're a parent fighting in court, a grandparent shut out without cause, a friend watching someone you love break under the strain, or a professional has seen the damage firsthand, or a survivor trying to make sense of what happened to you, your place is here. This is not about me, it's about us. It's about thousands of stories, different in detail, but identical in pain. The system will not fix itself. It only changes when people force it to change. And that is exactly what we're going to do. So if this story resonates with you, don't just listen. Connect. Join the mailing list at kilo4delta.com.au. You'll get updates, resources, episode alerts, campaign news, reform information, and opportunities to get involved. Because you do not have to fight this alone. The problem we are facing. It's a network of problems tangled together, feeding each other, and destroying lives in silence. If we do not name them, we cannot fight them. And I'm not here to sugarcoat any of it. Because let us start with one of the most damaging issues that we will discuss in this podcast, and that is parental alienation. Because parental alienation is not a phase simply to grow out of. It's not a minor side effect of separation. It is psychological harm, and it is child abuse. It is the process of turning a child against one of their parents through manipulation, pressure, fear, lies, control, emotional conditioning, or slow, deliberate erosion. Sometimes it's subtle, a constant drip feed of negative comments, a raised eyebrow, a sigh when the other parent calls. A child made feel guilty for loving both parents. A parent pretending to support contact while quietly undermining it. A child rewarded for rejection and punished for affection. Sometimes it is just blatant. Telling a child their parent is dangerous, telling a child their parent abandoned them, telling a child they are not safe, they are not loved, or they are not wanted. Telling a child adult information they should never have been carrying. Because either way, the damage is real. And in the family court system, alienation is often ignored until it's too late. By the time professionals recognize it, the bond between parent and child can be so damaged that the court starts calling it the child's choice. But it's not always a free choice. Fear, conditioning, loyalty conflict, manipulation, and survival. And the child is the victim. The system moves slowly, but alienation moves fast. Every month, every week, every day that a child remains under the influence can deepen the divide. And while the adults argue, while reports are written, while hearings are adjourned, that relationship quietly dies. It can show up as last minute cancellations, the child is too tired, the child has a party, the child does not want to go, the child is sick again. The child suddenly needs space. The other parent is excluded from school, from sport, from medical appointments, and everyday information. Photos disappear, names change. The parent becomes a first name. The parent becomes a threat, they become a story, and they become erased. What is needed is early recognition and urgent repair, not wait and see. Because alienation is time sensitive harm. Every lost week hardens into a new normal. And too often, the courts protect that new normal instead of asking why it was created in the first place. Then are the false allegations. The family court system must protect children from abuse. That role is essential, it's not negotiable, but when the system becomes a battleground for false allegations, it fails everyone. It fails genuine victims, it fails children, it fails the accused, and it fails the truth. In this system, a single claim can change everything. A parent can be removed from their home, cut off from their children, forced into legal chaos, stigmatized in the eyes of schools, services, police, professionals, family, and friends. And sometimes it happens before evidence is properly tested. In fact, most of the time that's when it happens. Because even when allegations are later withdrawn, dismissed, disproven, or quietly abandoned, the damage is already done. Lost time does not come back. Reputation does not instantly repair, if at all. Children do not simply forget. False allegations are not always random emotional outbursts. Sometimes, and mostly, they are strategic. Sometimes they land right before a hearing, right before a mediation, right when one parent is about to gain time, credibility, or momentum. They can create immediate restrictions, they can trigger costly legal defense, and they can plant doubt that never fully disappears. But we must be clear. False allegations hurt real victims. They make genuine reports harder to trust. They poison the system and they teach people to doubt everyone. They waste the resources that should be used to protect people in real danger. The answer is not to ignore allegations. The answer is to investigate them quickly, fairly, and properly. Protect people who are in danger, protect children from harm, and protect truth with the same urgency. Then there are weaponized apprehended violence orders. Protection orders exist for a reason. When someone is genuinely in danger, protection must be fast, firm, and effective. But when protection orders are misused, as legal weapons, the damage is severe. The person can be removed from their home, blocked from contacting their children, and restricted from attending places they used to go every day. Placed under conditions they do not fully understand, and if they breach those conditions, even accidentally, they face criminal consequences. That is enormous power. And enormous power must come with accountability. When orders are used properly, they can save lives. When they are used strategically, they can destroy lives. They become a way to control the narrative, a way to gain advantage in parenting disputes, and a way to make one parent look dangerous before facts are tested. A way to create fear, pressure, and silence. This is not about weakening protection for genuine victims. It's about making protection stronger by ensuring it's evidence-led, proportionate, and reviewed quickly. Because every exploited safeguard makes the system less safe for those who truly need it. Then, of course, there is men's mental health and suicide. This is a crisis that's hiding in plain sight. Men are dying. Not from illness, not just from violence, but from hopelessness, isolation, shame, and relentless pressure of systems that treat them as if they're expendable. When a man loses contact with his children, loses his home, loses his reputation, loses his money to legal fees, and then loses faith that anyone will listen, he can start to lose the will to keep going. And too often he does it quietly. He'll tell friends that he's fine. He keeps working. He keeps smiling. He keeps saying he's handling it until one day he's gone. The pattern is brutal. Lose your children, lose your home, lose your identity, lose your reputation, lose your money, lose your support, and lose your hope. And then people act shocked when men break. We need to talk about this loudly. Not because men matter more, because men matter too. Because children need their fathers, because families need truth, because silence is not strength when it's killing people. Connection saves lives, purpose saves lives, peer support saves lives, honest conversations save lives. Speaking up is not weakness. And then there is the systemic failures underneath it all. All of these issues are made worse by the same underlying problem. A system that moves too slowly, communicates too poorly, and investigates too late, if at all. And too often, acts before it knows the truth. Because justice delayed is justice denied. But in family law, justice delayed is childhood denied. Children grow while adults argue. Memories fade, bonds weaken, allegations harden. Temporary arrangements become permanent realities. The court may call them final orders, but for many families, the damage was done months or years earlier. Behind it all is bureaucracy. Endless forms, conflicting processes, agencies that don't talk to each other. Professionals working with fragments instead of the whole picture. Rules that prioritize procedure over people. Delay that becomes normal. Inaction that becomes accepted. Power that is exercised without enough accountability. This is why reform is needed. This is why we need independent, urgent, evidence-based investigation in family law matters. This is why we need public interest legal pathways. This is why we need advocacy. This is why we need education. And this is why we need the Kilo 4 Delta network. Because we are not here just to tell you the problems. we're here to break them apart, to show you how they work, to teach people how to survive them, and to fight for solutions that actually mean something. Talking about problems is important, but if all we do is talk, nothing changes. We are not here to be another voice shouting into the wind. We are here to build something that can prevent damage, protect children, and prevent abuse, both physical and legal, from continuing being unchecked. That is why I propose the Family Court Investigative Service, the FCIS, and it's at the heart of this mission. This is not a suggestion. This is not a nice idea. It is necessary reform. Because without proper investigation, every other change is built on sand. Right now, the family court process is built too heavily on argument instead of investigation. When an allegation is made, whether it involves domestic violence, child abuse, alienation, coercive control, neglect, substance abuse, or some other risk, it becomes a claim to be fought in court. Lawyers argue, affidavits are filed, evidence is framed, stories are shaped, reports are prepared, but too often, no one actually investigates quickly enough. No independent team arrives at the start to gather evidence in real time. No coordinated process exists to verify what is true and what is false before major decisions are made. No one pulls together the full picture quickly enough for the child. That means that false allegations can rip a parent away from their child before the evidence is even tested. It means genuine victims can remain in danger while allegations and accusations are being debated instead of investigated. It means children can spend months or years in unsafe, unstable, or alienating environments while the legal timetable crawls forward. And it's not that every judge doesn't care. It's that often judges are forced to make life-changing decisions based on incomplete, contested, and unverified information. And when you start with a broken foundation, you get broken outcomes. The Family Court Investigative Service would be an independent specialist body working alongside the court. Its role would be simple: find the facts early, find them properly, find them without bias, and the FCIS would be made up of people trained to deal with high conflict family situations. Specialist investigators, former detectives, child protection professionals, intelligence analysts, forensic interviewers, forensic psychologists, trauma experts, domestic violence specialists, cultural advisors, digital evidence specialists, and people who understand that family conflict is complex. People who understand that abuse can be real, and people who understand that allegations can also be false. People that understand that children need protection from both danger and manipulation. When serious allegations are raised in family court proceedings, the matter should be referred for urgent assessment. Not in 6 months, not after the damage is done, but immediately. The process proposed should include early risk assessment, rapid preservation of evidence, interviews recorded with both parents, safe, ethical interviews with children, also recorded where appropriate, contact with schools, doctors, police, counsellors, and other relevant professionals, review of digital material, messages, emails, call logs, records, and patterns of behaviour, analysis by trauma-informed professionals, then a preliminary report delivered to the court within a strict time frame, and then a final report that gives the court facts, not spin. The purpose is not to punish people for speaking up. The purpose is to separate truth from strategy, to protect genuine victims and to identify false claims. To stop children from being trapped in the middle for years. And the FCIS that I've proposed to government is a starting point. Instead of years of he said, she said, the court gets verified facts early. And instead of children being interviewed repeatedly by different people, they can be spoken to safely through trained professionals. Instead of allegations sitting unresolved while families collapse, urgent issues are investigated. Instead of temporary restrictions becoming permanent because of outcomes caused by delay, the court can act on evidence while there is still time to protect relationships. The FCIS would create faster protection for genuine victims, faster exposure for false allegations, better information for judges, less trauma for children, more accountability, shorter delays, stronger outcomes, and most importantly, it would recognise that children do not have to wait years. Children do not have to pause while adults argue. And then there is enforcement. Even when a parent survives the legal process and gets court orders in place, the fight is not over. Because orders are only as strong as the system's willingness to enforce them. And right now, that willingness is weak. It's piss weak. Because every day, parents breach orders. They withhold children. They refuse handovers. They ignore communication clauses. They create obstacles. They create delay. They make excuses. They know it can take months for the parent to get back before a judge. By then, the damage is done. The child's bond weakens. The new routine becomes normal, and the courts call it status quo. And once again, delay rewards the person causing the harm. False allegations can be used in this space. A single claim can disrupt court-ordered time. A police report can freeze contact. And when the claim is later withdrawn, disproven, or abandoned, the lost time still does not come back. Where there are deliberate breaches, there must also be consequences. Where there are false allegations made knowingly, they must be consequences. Where children are withheld in breach of orders, there must be urgent action because every hour matters, every missed handover matters, every disrupted relationship matters. So the FCIS should not only investigate allegations, it should also support evidence-based enforcement. That means rapid response to serious breaches, clear documentation of non-compliance, fast reporting back to the court, child safety recovery pathways where required, and evidence-based referral for prosecution where deliberate false claims or serious breaches are proven. Immediate action to patterns and not just isolated excuses. The goal is not to criminalize struggling parents. The goal is to stop children being used as leverage. The goal is to make orders mean something because when orders are enforced, trust in the system grows. When breaches have consequences, people think twice. And when false allegations are investigated properly, truth has a chance. And when children know the adults around them cannot simply ignore the rules, they are safer. We are not just talking about this. The FCIS is not a slogan. It's a structural reform proposal. It's the kind of solution that could change the way family law handles risk, allegations, alienation, evidence, delay, and enforcement. And it's not about favouring fathers. It's not about favouring mothers. It's about favouring the truth. It's about protecting the children. And it's about making sure that when the system acts, it acts on evidence, not assumptions, not stereotypes, not strategy, evidence. And the FCIS will not happen because someone in power suddenly decides to fix the system. It will happen because enough people demand it. Parents, grandparents, professionals, survivors, advocates, police, teachers, counsellors. People who can see the damage and refuse to pretend it's normal. And we are going to keep pushing until independent investigation is not a dream, it's a talking point. Not a petition sitting on a desk, but the foundation of every serious family court matter in this country. Because without truth, there is no justice. And without justice, we lose families, we lose children, and we lose lives. So Kilo 4 Delta is not just a podcast, it's a network. It's a public interest platform built to challenge broken systems from every lawful direction available. The podcast is the signal, but the network is the machine behind it. Kilo 4 Delta exists to educate, expose, support, investigate, advocate, train, to organise and reform. Because talking about the problem is not enough. A podcast can wake people up. A website can give them resources. Social media can spread the message. Training can prepare them. Community can help them live and can keep them alive. Investigative services can help uncover facts, and advocacy can push government and institutions. Court actions can test public power. A charitable foundation can support the long-term mission. And together, these become the Kilo 4 Delta network. A lawful, structured, evidence-driven movement for families, children, parents, grandparents, and professionals. And the survivors who have been failed by systems that were supposed to protect them. This network is not built on hate. It is not built on revenge. It is not built on attacking every police officer, lawyer, judge, court worker, psychologist, reporter, politician, or professional. Many people within these systems work hard. Many act with integrity. Many care deeply. But when the systems fail, people have the right to ask for serious questions. Are these systems acting lawfully? Are they acting fairly? Are they acting with accountability? Is evidence being properly tested? Are children and parents being harmed by delay? Are allegations being investigated properly? Are court orders being enforced? Are public powers being used responsibly? Are people being left in limbo until delay becomes the outcome? Those are public interest questions, and Kilo 4 Delta exists to ask them loudly, lawfully, and relentlessly. The podcast is the core signal. It's where we tell the truth plainly, where we speak about family court, AVOs, domestic violence, mental health, suicide, false allegations, parental alienation, police accountability, evidence handling, administrative delay, and the systems that shape people's lives. This is where lived experience meets public interest, where personal stories connect to wider patterns, where we speak to parents, professionals, advocates, survivors, investigators, and reformers. The podcast exists to make the invisible visible, to help people understand that what's happened to them may not be isolated, to give language to things that people have felt but could not explain, and to turn silence into evidence, pain into purpose. And the website is the mission hub, is where everything connects. Podcast episodes, resources, training, campaign updates, music, books, fundraising, advocacy material, story submissions, guest applications, public interest updates, and information about the Family Court Investigative Service, information about accountability, family law reform, police accountability, mental health, parental alienation, and systemic change. The website is where people can land at 2 a.m. in the morning, exhausted and broken, find their starting point. It's not magic. It's not false hope. A place to breathe, a place to learn, a place to connect, a place to understand that they are not the only one. But then social media is the amplifier. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Short videos, live streams, clips, quotes, campaigns, public awareness, rapid responses, and breaking commentary. Social media is how we reach the people who will never read a policy paper. It's how we reach the father sitting in his car after court, the mother who knows that the system is broken but is too scared to speak, the grandparent who has not seen their grandchild in months, the young person trying to understand why one parent disappeared, but the professional who knows something is wrong but feels alone in saying it. The goal is not attention for attention's sake. The goal is reach, because reach saves lives. One video can make someone feel seen. One clip can start a conversation. One live stream can stop someone from giving up. One post can connect a person into a mission before they disappear into silence. Advocacy is where the message becomes pressure. Because Kilo 4 Delta is not here to simply complain about the system. We're here to change it in every lawful way that we can. This means public campaigns, government submissions, petitions, political engagement, media pressure, policy proposals, meetings with decision makers, community organising, like public interest reporting, and where appropriate, lawful court action. We are preparing public interest pathways around family law systems, police accountability, administrative delay, evidence handling, procedural fairness, children, parents, and the lawful use of public power. That includes questions around New South Wales Police, AVOs, evidence handling, allegations, counter-allegations, criminal charges, and the impact these processes can have on families. It includes questions around family law, delay, administrative inaction, registry issues, non-progression, and whether families are being left in limbo while the delay becomes the practical outcome. It includes broader procedural and constitutional questions about whether untested allegations, expert opinion, therapy first pathways, no contact outcomes, and status quo circumstances can displace proper adjudication on evidence. These are serious questions. They must be prepared properly, with evidence, with legal advice, with structure, with discipline. This is not about attacking individuals for sport. It's about lawful accountability. It's about testing whether public power is being executed fairly, lawfully, and with proper regard to children, parents, and time. Training is how we then move people from panic to preparation. People caught in family law, AVO, police, and other related systems are often terrified. They don't know who is who. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to behave in court. They don't know how to organise evidence. They don't understand the process. They do not understand the risks of emotional communication. They do not understand how one mistake can be used against them. So our goal is to train. We want to educate people on the system and the structure of that system. Who is who in the family court? How do hearings work? How to behave in court? How to stay calm under pressure? How to document events? How to preserve evidence? How to avoid the traps? How to comply with orders? How they need to communicate safely? and how to prepare questions for legal advice. How to understand the difference between emotion, opinion, allegation, and evidence. Because what we're doing is not legal advice. It is education. It is preparation. It is helping ordinary people stop walking blind into systems that can change their lives forever. And our community is the lifeline because this fight is lonely. Family law can isolate people. False allegations can destroy friendships. Alienation can break a person's and parents' identity. Court can make people feel like time has completely stopped. And men, especially, are often told to stay quiet, toughen up, and carry it alone. And too many just never make it. Because here at Kilo 4 Delta, I'm trying to build a community because people need somewhere to be heard when they speak, before they break. A place to learn, a place to connect, a place to understand that they are not the only one. Community does not replace professional help. It does not replace legal advice. It does not replace crisis support. But it can be the thing that keeps someone alive long enough to get those things. Connection matters. Being believed matters. And being understood matters. Join the mission. If this message hits home, don't just listen. Join the mission. Follow Kilo 4 Delta on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you listen. Visit kilo4delta.com.au, join the mailing list, share your story, follow the campaigns, support the work, and learn the system. Find resources and be part of the change. Because your voice matters, your story matters, and your survival matters. And together, we can make the noise that cannot be ignored. So we are Kilo 4 Delta. Talk about it. Post about it. Refuse to stay silent. Help us turn one voice into thousands. Because silence protects the system, but noise forces it to change. In Kilo 4 Delta, this is a revolution in sound.